Hello, 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 and welcome to Updog Sports Talk. My name is Matt Miller. Joining me today is Justin McGovern. No technical difficulties today, Justin. And then
We shall
we have
see.
a very special guest, Alex from the Mac Sports Connection. What's going on, man?
What is going on, guys? Thank you for having me back on. It's always good to talk ball with you guys, and I'm looking forward to it.
Not just ball, MACtion. The
Yeah,
best kind of ball there is.
the only
Tuesday
kind
night,
in my book, but
you'll get
we
like,
can have that discussion for another time.
as Justin puts it, Tuesday night rock fights.
There we go. I love it.
Or
um,
66 to 63 games, just depending on the night.
Yeah, you never know what you're gonna get with the Mac. So I guess Justin, you want to tell everybody like we kind of hinted at it, but you want to tell everybody exactly what we're talking about tonight?
Yeah, so we're going to go through kind of our MAC predictions. First of all, going through the conference, going through what are our favorites, what are some other teams you can't forget about, the sleepers, and of course, the teams that are just trying to fight their way forward. So we're going to be looking at the conference from top to bottom, having a blast with it, and of course, just giving every MAC fan something to enjoy.
And here at Updog Sports Talk, we love to stick up for the little guy. What better way to do that than talk some action? So this one hits home for us. Justin and I are Bowling Green alums, and we are super stoked to get into this conversation. Um, so let's start with how we think the Mac's going to go this year.
Yeah, so we got this little tier table here. We'll get this started on our favorites. So you can see we have Toledo, Miami, Ohio, and Buffalo I put up here. Alex, so when you see this list, are there any surprises to you of teams that I consider to be one of the favorites?
No, I think you got to look at there's a hierarchy to how the conference is laid out. You get your top dogs who are consistently talked about. In the last 5 years or so, it's been Toledo, Miami, and Ohio. But then I think this year you welcome Buffalo, and that's not because Buffalo is all of a sudden just better. They have a good head coach in there, Mo Linguist, down at Alabama now, I believe, on the offensive staff. He wasn't ready for the head coaching gig, I don't think. He did some nice things, brought in some great recruits during his time there, but he was kind of a patch of a coach, in my opinion, anyway. After Lance Leipold went to Kansas, so I think you got to look at what's available here, and when I look at this top four, it feels like the right top four. Pete Lembo has done it in this league before. He's been successful in the MAC when he was at Ball State, so it doesn't surprise me that a Pete Lembo ball club is sitting in the favorites category.
Well, Justin and I went to the Bowling Green Toledo game in Toledo last year, and by the way, if you've never been to a Toledo, like Alex, I know you've been to a Toledo game, but
Just a few.
anybody watching, if you've never been to a Toledo game, it's actually a lot of fun. Definitely have to put it on your like cheaper bucket list. But Toledo just seems like one of those teams that are always there. And when we were at the game last year, they had some moments where they were like we were like, why would you do that? But you could see the potential that the team had. So like having Toledo in the top tier, one, I think like they're the powerhouse of the conference. They're the most consistent. But it's cool to see Miami back up at the top and definitely Buffalo in here and I guess Ohio.
So, the defending champs, that's all.
Yeah, just the
So
defending champ.
when you look at this tier, Alex, like which one do you think carries the most risk of kind of a disappointing season to you?
Honestly, I think it's got to be Toledo. Toledo, as much as I love them, occasionally drops a game they have no business dropping. Whether that be a fault of their own or a fluke of some other nature. I'm thinking back to 2023 when Toledo went to Illinois, and Illinois converted on an unbelievable fourth down to set up the game-winning field goal, and I believe it was Luke Altmaier threw the pass for Illinois. Toledo had an absolute like they had him stopped. It was fourth down. It's fourth and long. He completed a pass. The interview after the game even said, he's like, I didn't even know where my receiver was. The receiver said, I didn't know where the ball was. Like,
and don't forget,
they couldn't
like,
see each other.
Before
So,
that
like,
even happened, Toledo was on a drive getting set to like pull the game, I think within like 3 scores. Like they had all the momentum. They were getting set to run Illinois off the field, and then a pick six brought Illinois back in it. So it shouldn't even come down to that.
It shouldn't have come down to that, but I think, that's part of the nature of you're playing a Big Ten opponent on their home field in a night game. There's a lot of things that you just can't predict. But that aside, like, that was a game that had that weird ending. And then Toledo rips off 11 straight wins. You're like, okay, this is a New Year's Six team. Then they fall flat in the MAC championship, and then they fall flat in they're in the postseason. Like, this was not a Toledo team that did well. I hesitate to talk about how much positive momentum they have, because I think Toledo has, of anybody here, arguably the most complete team. You're replacing pieces here and there, but Miami is replacing their entire offense. Ohio is replacing most of their defense. Buffalo, you're replacing critical pieces on the offense and defensive side. I think Toledo here has the most complete team, and that's throughout the entire conference. So I think that sets them up to have the potential to be the most disappointing team if they don't meet the expectations kind of set forth by the fans, by the players, by the coaches. Toledo has so much to gain and everything to lose.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at Toledo, they have 75% returning production on the offense. An offense that, when consistent, was actually somewhat dangerous. But what killed them was consistency. And I think if they can get past that, then they can get this division back, or this conference back. But I mean, that consistency, that is also what could kill them.
Yeah,
I think too. Oh, go ahead.
I don't know if we were about to say the same thing, but I know one of the problems they had last year was they couldn't run the ball, and you got Chip Trainum in there now. More experience back in the offensive line. I think that's a huge part of what can make them more consistent, because a lot of last year was on the arm of Tucker Gleason, and sometimes he thrived in that role. Other times he had some rough moments, like we referenced Battle of I-75 earlier, the pick six in the fourth quarter that kind of changed the dynamic of that game.
I think too, you talked about the running game. That was such a pain point for Toledo. So much that teams knew they can't beat us on the ground, so we're just going to force them to throw, make them beat us over the top. And when you knew that, like you saw that, I would be willing to wager that you run that Mississippi State game back later in the year, knowing everything we know, Mississippi State probably wins that game. And I'm being perfectly honest. And Toledo ran them off their own field in week 2. It doesn't surprise me that teams figured out quickly Toledo struggled on the ground, and that's because they had a very inexperienced offensive line. They had 5 pieces that hadn't gelled yet, but now you've got Ethan Spoth anchoring that offensive line, and all those guys return. They all have experience from last year. This is going to be a much better offensive line, and you get a much more dynamic backfield ball carrier. And Chip Trainum kind of reminds me a little bit of the Penny Boone era, just from the different things I've seen from his time at Ohio State and at Kentucky. But I think that we're in for a really exciting backfield, and that's going to give Tucker Gleason so much more time to do other things that he just didn't have time to do last year.
Yeah, and if he has time to throw, like, the weapons they have is just ridiculous for a team in this conference. Like, Junior Vander Ross is a future NFL guy. You have Rudolph coming over from NIU, and some of these other young guys. Like, man, it's just wild how loaded the offense is. And of course, there's NFL talent on the defense too.
This defense is, Avery Smith, Emmanuel McNeil Warren, just guys that you're going to see probably play at the next level. For whatever reason, lately, Toledo hasn't really been offensive MACU. They've been defensive MACU. Quinyon Mitchell going in the first round 2 years ago. Darius Alexander going in the third round last year. Like, Toledo has turned into a defensive player factory. Samuel Womack a few years back. There are guys all over the NFL that have played in the Toledo defensive side of the ball, and it's pretty incredible to see.
Yeah, I love to see it.
Well, I've actually heard small rumblings, and maybe it's just rumors, but with NIU leaving the conference, like, do you think that would open the door for Toledo to get like bump up into like American or something?
I think when you explore conference realignment, everybody is trying to play the game of who can I nab to be the most appealing for the TV market, for the TV money. And I think that's a valid thing to look at. But I think when you look at conference realignment, you have to look at other things. There's a reason Northern Illinois isn't going all Mountain West with all their sports. They're not a fit competitively, or really that travel would have made next to zero sense. I already have my own reservations on the travel for their move now, but they realized football is the value. We're going to go here. That being said, you got to look at how do they fit collectively as a whole athletic department, because now and this is what I worry about for Sean Frazier, great guy from Northern Illinois, the athletic director. Something I worry about now. You're going to have your sports split up into at least 3 different conferences now. You got football, your bell cow, traveling west several times a year. You're going to have your basketball and most of your Olympic sports kind of staying in the same MAC footprint of an area, against a little bit lesser competition. But then your gymnastics and wrestling, the MAC isn't retaining them. So they're looking for yet another home for them. So it's just, I'm hearing rumors of Big 12. I've heard other rumors, I believe, of Patriot League, things like that. So there's options, but that's a lot to keep track of. So I always wonder why the decision is purely off of the football. We all know the answer. It's the money. But you got to find the right fit for everybody, for all the sports that makes sense competitively. Then you have to look at the academics. How do your academics stack up with those other institutions? Again, these are still NCAA colleges. These are still universities, places of higher learning. You're not there to play football. You're there to get an education, and you get to play football. You get to go to this school because you play football well, or because you play basketball well. So I think that you need to look at the academic fit. But then lastly, I think the geographical footprint is what's going to matter. Northern Illinois making this move, I wish them the best. I certainly want to see them succeed. I've got nothing but love for Northern Illinois. But geographically, I wonder how much extra finances go into the travel, especially now with, tariffs and things like that. Things are going to be more expensive. I certainly am not trying to get political here. I'm just looking at the reality of what the numbers are.
It all comes down to money. So
it all comes down to money, and that's the thing that we as fans we need to realize. This isn't the college athletics our parents grew up with. This isn't the college athletics our grandparents grew up with. It's, back then you were lucky to catch a college football game on TV at all. You would see the big ones. You'd see the Ohio State versus Michigans. You would almost never see Michigan take on Indiana on TV. You would never see Ohio State take on a lowly Purdue on TV, but you would get the big games. Up until about 30 years ago, you weren't consistently seeing MAC schools on TV. And so there's that as well. There's that exposure. But then with that exposure comes the other challenges of how do we do things that make sense for our institution, at least the way we look at it. And I think overall the MAC has done a really good job of leveraging media rights deals. I think the current one is a little long. I think they could have parsed this one back a little bit. But at the time, and this is what I tell people, at the time, when they signed this deal in 2013, I believe, 2014, the MAC media deal was $1 million for the entire conference. Then they got it bumped up to about $10 million over time. And yeah, it's still only coming out to about $750,000, $800,000 a school. But you think about the time before that, that was about $80,000 a school. That doesn't pay for a trip. That doesn't pay, because by the time you do all the costs, hotels, flights, all the other, there's so many other things that go into it. And the MAC is for the most part, a bus league. Now there's going to be some flights up to UMass, probably some flights from Kalamazoo to Buffalo, but for the most part, this is very much a bus league, and that cuts down on cost. And I say all that to say this. I feel like I'm waxing poetic a little bit here. It's I say all that to say this. I think it's so important to look at what makes sense for the institution on various levels. I think Toledo fans have an expectation and a desire to join an American. There is next to no desire, from what I've understood, once they see how things are shaking out, to join the Sun Belt or a Conference USA. And Northern Illinois fans have given a tale of caution of don't get too comfortable and stay here. Go to a Mountain West, do the thing, and then go to the American. No, that doesn't make sense. The American's going to get restructured in 2031. Why go to the Mountain West for 3 years, pay exit fees, entry fees, and then another set of exit fee and entry? Stay where you're at, get that ready so that if you want to move at the right time, you can move. You're not being forced into a move. You can move at the pace you want to move.
Yeah, Justin and I are big advocates for geographical conferences. Mm-hmm. So, don't really go further than, handful of 100 miles. That's what makes all the rivalries of college football great. Battle of I-75, right down the road. Iron Bowl, not really that far from each other. Michigan, Ohio State, not really that far from each other. That's what made this sport. So getting away from that, we'll see where all this goes, but Justin and I love the regional basis of the MAC, how all the schools other than Northern Illinois plan to stick together. But getting back to the football piece of it.
My team that was the biggest risk for a bust potential here is probably Miami, I think.
I would agree with you on that.
And I think it's just because, simply put, you're taking a risk when you're trying to change your whole offense by the portal. Obviously, I think it came just out of necessity just because of so many people leaving this past offseason. So it was definitely a different approach. It's not one that we're used to seeing from Chuck Martin. So there's just, I think they'll ultimately end up being good, but I'm pointing out that there could be a chance that they could have a disappointing year if that all does not work out. Plus, of course, you look at the schedule and you see all the challenges they have up front. They have Wisconsin, they have Rutgers both on the road. They have UNLV early on. If you end up taking an 0-3 start there, then you've got to really regain your momentum from that point.
15% returning production on the offense. One of the lowest in the country. Actually, it is the lowest in the country. But that's 2 years removed from being on everybody's radar at the end of the season. They were a couple of plays from knocking some big programs down. They were definitely our favorites last year, even though they lost their kicker, but he proved to be the difference on the team. So yeah, that's why, Justin, I agree with you. I think Miami has the best shot. Toledo, probably next best shot to be brought down a peg.
It's interesting. I kind of want to make a point on Miami. Chuck Martin is never really known for his offense. Let's be very, very candid on that. Chuck Martin is known for his defense, and he loses guys like Ty Wise, Matt Salopek, Brian Ugo. This is a good defense that lost some great pieces, but they're retaining a bunch. Eli Blakey coming back, that's a huge part of the defensive side of the ball. You've got you've got so much talent on this side of the ball. And if you look at that side, they didn't attack the portal on the defensive side. They've grown all those guys. There are very few transfer guys on the defensive side of the ball. You got a couple, but very few on that side of the ball. And that's a good thing. That's something that Chuck Martin can continue. And that's why I don't have them as, potential for, the biggest upset. The expectations are, yes, compete for the MAC championship because you've got a good defense. But I don't think people are going to be like, oh, wow, Miami really blew it. When you return next to nothing on offense, you're returning Kenny Tracy, who was out last year. Yeah, I don't think that this is an offense that people can get too upset about. Like, what you get with DeQuan Finn. You get a pretty good mobile quarterback who's injury prone. And I think that was something that was a tough pill for some Toledo fans to swallow when he left for Baylor. But then he went to Baylor, gets hurt, doesn't win back the starting job. Now I think it's for him. It's a little humbling to go back to the conference, to come back to the MAC after winning the starting job at Baylor. So I think it'll be interesting to see. I think Miami could very well not win the MAC, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I also wouldn't be surprised if they didn't, and I don't feel like that sets them up for success or failure of not meeting expectations.
Yeah, there's just too many questions with that low return rate. You just don't know what you're going to get until you see it on the field, and by then might be a little too late.
Yeah, but obviously I think it's a good point there on the defensive side, though, because his teams just always have an excellent defense. And it like you said, it's homegrown. It's been a factory pretty much. One guy leaves, another one steps in. It's really, really impressive what they're doing on that side of the ball.
Yes.
And I know, looking at some of these other teams, in terms of like strong contenders, I know I put Buffalo up there. That is a team I'm just so excited to watch this year. Like, I don't think we've done enough to talk about the guys on that defensive side of the ball. Kobe Stewart obviously was a huge, I call that one a recruiting win because he hit the portal at one point and they managed to convince him to stay.
Mm-hmm.
Red Murdoch, I mean, let's talk about him for a minute because he is just ridiculous at the linebacker position.
Yeah. When I think of Red Murdoch, I think one of the things that I really loved about him is the tandem of him and Sean Dolac. That was an unbelievable dynamic duo who did it all. They were the top two tacklers in the conference a year ago. And I think Red Murdoch has an opportunity to be, the best tackler in the conference this year. And that's going to be because he's got other great pieces around him. Kobe Stewart, you just talked about him. I feel like we're going to see that next step for Red Murdoch. As long as he stays healthy, but two, as long as Kobe Stewart does his job. Kobe Stewart kind of gives me the feeling that he's going to be one of those guys you have to double team this year. Maybe not a Khalil Mack specific, but I feel like you're going to have to give him a lot of attention, and that's going to free up Red Murdoch. You can't double both guys. Like you're not going to be able to do anything on offense if you have to double two guys. So you're going to have to concentrate on one of them, or put your best guy on both of them, and that opens it up for a lot of the other guys. So I really love this tandem on the defensive side for Buffalo. I really like Kobe Stewart. I simply love Red Murdoch. I have him as my early pick for Defensive Player of the Year.
I love it.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then George Wollo is kind of the X factor, I feel like, because, he missed a lot of last year, and Buffalo's biggest issue defensively was trying to stop the run. But now you get Wollo back in the middle. It feels like you're kind of completing the pieces of this defense a little bit.
Yes, no, I agree with you. Wollo is an unbelievable portion of this defense and what they bring to the table. I think that he's that next layer that gives them a little bit more of an edge. They went 9-4 last year, lost some key pieces, but this Buffalo team is going to be a lot better than people realize. I think they were picked 4th in the MAC preseason this year. Buffalo is going to be really good this year, guys.
They kind of remind me of that 2006 Bears team where offensively was a question mark, but
Yeah.
they had a very, very, very good defense and 73% returning production. You can't really complain about that, especially when they had like what the best defense in the MAC last year.
Yeah, they had one of the best defenses in the MAC, and they had two of the top tacklers in the country. Like this is and one of the tacklers who was robbed in the NFL draft this year. That's another story for another time.
We've been loud about that here.
but really, I mean, and he's already showing it. Like, yes, I know it's preseason. Don't count for anything for preseason, but he's showing up. He's doing the job, and he's doing it well against other rookies who were drafted high or drafted low or not at all. He's showing up and he's putting in the work. He's showing he could be an NFL linebacker or an NFL defensive lineman. Wherever you want to put him, he's going to be able to play it. And I think that brings a lot of value. But that's a testament, again, to what he's done, but also to the schemes that he was put into to be successful. You put the guys in the places that are best able to succeed, and then they'll succeed. And that was the case for Sean Dulac.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you mentioned the offensive side of the ball. Quarterback needs to be figured out. But I think one of the good things is you're behind potentially the best offensive line in the MAC. Got a good running back. You have Snow back at receiver, McMillan returning from injury. So at least the quarterback has a lot of pieces around him. Who do you think has the edge in that quarterback position at the moment?
Man, that's tough. I really, and this is just personal, I would love to see a guy like Gunnar Gray win it. I think there's a lot of talent. I don't think he does. And that's okay. Replacing a guy like CJ Ekbana is tough because he had a lot of talent and he did some good stuff. But I think Taquan Robertson is going to be the guy who wins it. You could say Mason Crumble could compete, I guess. But I think it's a two-man race between Gunnar Gray and Taquan Robertson. I think Taquan Robertson wins it, and I think that gives Buffalo an extra dynamic edge in terms of ability to run, ability to throw. The issue is none of these guys really have a bunch of long-term experience. Robertson comes in from UConn and Kansas State, and then Gunnar Gray was a JUCO transfer. So it's really who shows up in camp, and then ultimately, I don't think the Minnesota game is your point to say, all right, this is who our starter is. But I think you use the St. Francis game in week 2 to say, hey, we're going to run both y'all out, figure out what's going on, and then you go from there, because that's going to be your easiest test on the season to figure out who's going to be the guy to get it done for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's actually a good amount of star power in terms of MAC quarterbacks this year. And this is the only team that we put in this favorites tier that doesn't have a set quarterback position. So I am excited, though. Like, it feels like it may not be to the level of like the Dan Lefevre's, Ben Roethlisberger's and all that, but like I am excited for like the level of quarterback play. Like, we haven't talked enough about Parker Navarro. Before we move on to this next section, I guess we could talk about him a little bit. But yeah, Navarro is a star himself too.
Parker Navarro is an absolute stud. And I think in terms of, we saw the MAC had a bunch of coaching changes. I think in terms of coaching changes, he's the one who ended up in the best position because it was his offensive coordinator who got the head coaching job. It wasn't a brand new team where he has to come in and learn a new offense. I think that gives Parker Navarro a great opportunity to be successful. But when I look at kind of what he did this year, it's really interesting. He was one of the worst quarterbacks in the MAC this year in terms of interceptions. He and Brett Gabbert were tied for 14th in the conference. That means they weren't even top 13 in the conference for lack of interceptions. Now, in fairness, guys like Devin Cargman only played 4 games. Jaden Glasser only played 4 games. So it's not fair to fully compare them. But they finished dead last in the conference in picks thrown with 11 apiece. Parker Navarro only threw 13 touchdowns last year. A lot of his damage came from great offensive pieces around him, but then came from his legs. He was able to really run and pick up a few more touchdowns last year. He was the 4th in the conference last year in terms of rushing attempts, and he was one of just, I think, 4 guys to have 1,000+ yards as a rusher, and he had 18 touchdowns, so he led the conference in rushing touchdowns. So that's where his ability was kind of made up.
Hard to throw picks when you're running forward.
True. Very true.
But yeah, that's definitely a huge step in his progression for sure, is to get better at that. And we're going to see that right away against Rutgers. Like, that's going to be a game where both teams are really going to look to run a slow-paced offense, kind of control the clock a bit. And when you're in that kind of game, possessions are going to mean a lot.
Absolutely. And they're going to be huge. Again, Ohio looking for new defensive pieces, and I think they've got some. But this offense is going to be a relatively well-oiled machine. You got to replace a few pieces, but you're in pretty good shape on the offensive side of the ball. The side of the ball that's going to be most important as you get the season going.
Yeah, absolutely. 6. So time for all three of us to put our pens on the. I had a saying there that just fell apart of me. Time to put the pens on the table and go with our conference championship predictions. Alex, who do you have making the conference championship, and who do you have winning it?
Toledo, Buffalo. Toledo wins it.
Matt, what do you got?
Buffalo, Ohio.
Ooh.
I'll go Ohio repeating.
Okay.
I'm going to end up following Alex's path here. I'm going Toledo, Buffalo, and I'm going with Toledo to win it. I think Toledo gets it done this year. And now the other question is, you have Toledo, Matt has Ohio, and I have Toledo as well. Can Toledo or Ohio or any of these teams crash the college football playoff?
I think Toledo has the firepower, the horses to do it. You get Kentucky in a tumultuous portion of the Bob Stoops era. There's real talk that Bob Stoops gets fired after this year, depending on
or
how
after
the
that
season goes.
game.
Or very much after that game. Toledo's schedule is resume building enough that you get a win over an SEC foe to start the year. You get a win over a Western Kentucky who is a Conference USA favorite. You beat Morgan State. But then you get your conference schedule. You don't have a crazy difficult conference schedule. You avoid Buffalo. You avoid Ohio. And then you
avoid
get
a Harold Fannin Jr.
You avoid Harold Fannin Jr. He's off on the 2-10 Browns at that point. But then you also get an interesting game. The game that I think you circle is you get the game out at Washington State. Pullman is not a quick trip, but I think that one's going to be the really interesting tell. And then you get Northern Illinois at home on a midweek night, so that's going to be a great environment. The schedule is set up for Toledo if they go 11-1, 12-0, win the MAC championship. You would be hard-pressed to not strongly consider them for the college football playoffs. And I don't think anybody else's schedule is set up. Now, obviously, if Miami goes 11-1, they're making the playoffs. If Ohio, who plays Rutgers, West Virginia, and Ohio State, goes 11-1, that means they knocked off 2 Power 4 opponents. They're going to the college football playoffs. So, there are pieces here for all these teams, but I think the most realistic shot is through Toledo.
But then when you get into the bulk of MACtion, it's a rock fight. Bowling Green was not expected to win that game in Toledo last year. Everyone thought Toledo was going to blow them out, and they came back and won. Which we were randomly in a strange Toledo fans section, Justin. We did not plan that well.
Yeah, we did not plan that well at all. I don't know how exactly we did that. We were in the front row, all Toledo. Keep in mind, the exact opposite of where all the other Bowling Green fans were. So, literally the furthest away from them on the other corner of the stadium. And there we are, just us two in orange, and all blue around us.
And
gotta love it.
We said 0 words to anyone around us, and anyone around us said 0 words to us.
Even better.
But we weren't disrespectful either. We weren't yeah, we were kind of quiet, reserved. We were definitely like if somebody was on the outside looking in, they'd be like, "Oh, podcasters!" Like that was the energy we definitely gave off.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to be neutral a little bit. The Battle of I-75 is one that we love to promote every single year. It definitely means a lot to us. For me, like I had a friend that worked at Toledo for a long time, so I also will tend to root for Toledo outside of when they play Bowling Green. And they obviously are a team that can really help the conference right now, just with the talent that they have this year. I don't know if they'll be able to get it done. They probably need to go 12-0 just because you look at the schedules that other Group of 5 contenders have. Boise State and Navy both have a pretty decent setup to potentially go 11-1 with losses to Notre Dame. So you look at those. So I mean, when you look at their schedules, like you're looking at teams like on the Boise State side, you're hoping like a San Jose State or Air Force can maybe pull an upset to help Toledo along the way. For Navy,
oh sure, yeah, no, and I think to kind of go off of that, you definitely want it. You want Toledo to, if you're a Toledo fan or a MAC fan, you want your school to have the most clear cut direct path. The way the college football playoffs are laid out right now, though, it's the top 5 champions. That doesn't guarantee it's 4 P4 champions and then one group of 5. It only guarantees that at least one group of 5 will be guaranteed a spot. It doesn't say only. And I think there's an important thing that a lot of people are overlooking. If the ACC gets into a slugfest, you have a 3-loss ACC champ, you going to put them in over a 12-0, 13-0 MAC champ? You might, but now you have to consider it.
I think the best part about like talking about Toledo going into the college football playoff is the fact that it would just ruin everything. And Justin and I are here for that all the time. We just like chaos.
Give us that chaos. I mean, we had a scenario at one point last year where Tulane, when Colorado was still in the Big 12 championship hunt, there was a potential that if Tulane won out, Tulane would have gotten the college football playoff instead of Colorado, if Colorado had won the Big 12 championship. So, like, you could see scenarios like that unfold that a lot of times they don't talk about. I mean, of course, the bigger medias don't talk about it at all. For half the year last year, they thought the Group of 5 team automatically got the 12 seed, which obviously we all knew was not the case.
And if, let's say, Clemson is 3-loss again, and Toledo's completely undefeated, I think it would cause Greg Sankey to go on national media blitz to just start talking bad about every conference, which would definitely look bad for him. But he's been a big advocate of, if you don't exist in my sphere, you don't exist at all. And I think he's trying to, in our opinion, ruin the sport. But I think Toledo getting into the college football playoff would definitely, we would want to get front row seats to that, to everything about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, that's kind of the part where I don't like that they put. We talked about this. Omar and I talked about this on the American one. The Boise State rule that they put in, and now that kind of hurts Toledo's chances of getting that bye into the next round. Where if we were using last year's format, a 12-0 Toledo definitely would have had. Well, by the time they had the conference championship, 13-0 Toledo would have had a shot at a bye even.
Yeah. Yeah, there's real conversations to be had around those things. So you're not telling me anything I don't disagree with you on.
Oh yeah.
Now, this wasn't on the docket, but would you be all for like an NIT style playoff as well?
Absolutely not, because then you are telling fans of the schools that at the FBS level that hey, we only view you as another version of the FCS. So I would be vehemently against it.
I'm with Alex on this one.
I like that. Yeah. I mean, I just had to ask that. If I was on the other shows, that would have been asked too.
I am very much, now this will be a much different conversation for later. I'd be very much in favor of a of a European soccer promotion relegation system.
Yeah.
Which you guys have seen my draw up of that. But I would be very much against any additional tournament. We see the numbers for the NIT don't come anywhere near close to the NCAA tournament. And I think the same thing would happen there. The championship for the FCS National Championship was, I think, 2 million-ish. The first round playoffs on campus sites average out at about 12 million. Like, there are levels to this.
Yes.
And if we move to a system like that, you're going to see less share of the pie, and it's just all going to come down to giving the top 45 programs from 2 conferences all the money.
Yep. And like we've talked about relegation quite a bit this offseason. We have a soccer fan that loves to come on, and like he's now our intern. But relegation comes up quite a bit. But if we did relegation, that would pretty much just admit that SEC and Big Ten are the cream of the crop. And I don't really want to... I'm not ready to admit that.
Yeah. No,
especially because, I mean, then we would lose MACtion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this is really where this is where the heartbeat of the sport is, for sure.
Yes. And, I mean, what's better than Tuesday night rock fights?
Yeah. Or, I'm sorry, Matt, I know you like Notre Dame, but the NIU over Notre Dame upset was one that really caught a lot of interest across all of college football. And we've seen in the past, like, so many upsets captivate fans. It's one of the most memorable things that we see in the sport. And I think TV executives are trying to push people to forget about that fact. But ultimately, when we get a moment like that last year, it reminds people that this is actually what we like to see.
And that's MACtion, baby.
Absolutely.
So remember to get some action this year. If you are located anywhere in the Rust Belt, make sure you hit up a game. I know I at least have 3 of them on my calendar, so it definitely is a great environment, an easy family getaway for sure.
Yeah. Oh, and we're big advocates for the MAC championship game to be played in Cincinnati down here at the soccer stadium. So that way we can also get a, I don't know, Cincinnati Chili Bowl. Had to throw that one in there as well. What is this, the last year of the lease with Ford Field for the MAC championship?
From what I understand, that lease was renewed. So the Chili Bowl is not to be yet.
Well, maybe one of these years we can just have grown men in cheese coney edible costumes sweating all over the field. That would be fantastic. Doing sausage, like Milwaukee Brewers sausage races at halftime.
Okay.
We planned it out. All right, before I get further down the rabbit hole and just completely ruin this episode, I think that's a good place to stop. Alex, you want to go ahead and plug the program?
Yeah, first off, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate your time, allowing me to talk about some MACtion. Appreciate you having me on. Great to talk with you guys. But if anybody's interested in getting any more nothing but MACtion, really, we don't talk about anything else, which is almost incredible at this point.
It's truly glorious.
Yes.
It's we only talk about the MAC. But we do it all. We talk MAC football, MAC basketball, MAC baseball, softball, lacrosse, field hockey. You know, we love this conference. We love this league. You can find us anywhere on social media at the MAC Sports Connection. Some places it's still listed as the MAC Sports Connection podcast. Find us or even at the MSC podcast. Any platforms you guys want to listen to. We're on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. You guys can find us really anywhere podcasts are available as well. And then I guess because I got to plug it, download the Varsity app by Lairfield. You can listen to us through their network of podcasters. So worked on that partnership, and it's been a great one so far. And we're part of the Lairfield family of podcasts. So all those places, check us out, and we definitely appreciate the love and support. My co-host Graham and I both really appreciate the support people have thrown behind what we do, and makes it more fun.
Yeah, and I mean, gotta say it one last time. Nothing better than MACtion, baby.
Nothing better than MACtion, that's right.
All right, that is the show, folks. We will catch you next time. We will go back to live episodes in the fall, and we will see you.